Townsend plays on, plays to the whistle, kicks away for Valentine.
All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Chad Townsend Show podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Players Club, the Players Golf Club, playersgolfclub.com.au. Make sure you head over there, shop your polos, t-shirts, hats, accessories. You can get your membership, which gives you guys some great access to the boys and also some members-only perks. It is awesome stuff. We've had great feedback from our members this season. Plus, also, we've got the inaugural Players Club Invitational Golf Day happening on Friday, the 13th of October. Members get our first chance to purchase tickets, and then after that, if there's any left, we're going to go to the general public. So it's going to be a fun day on the green, a 4-ball Ambrose tournament, some amazing, unbelievable prizes. We've got some awesome sponsors, so thank you to them, shout out to them. It's going to be such an awesome day, and we thank everyone for coming on board with that. So today, why are we here? We're here because the Cows, we didn't make the 8. And what is the second best thing behind playing finals football? It is talking about finals football, chopping it up, talking about some footy. And I decided to bring a good friend of mine, Elliot Lovejoy from Triple M. Thanks for coming on today, mate.
Mate, happy to be here. Probably like you said, didn't expect it to be this soon. But
Yep.
yeah, I'm glad we can get through a bit of finals footy stuff. And obviously your battered, weary body and broken middle finger needs a bit of time to recover too.
Yeah, mate, there is. This is a long season, like 24 games, 27 weeks. Obviously, they've added in an extra bye this season, which makes one extra week longer.
Did you feel that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I felt it making the tackle.
Yeah, I meant the long season, the finger too. Yeah,
the finger, mate, I felt the season.
Yeah.
I remember after the season, everyone's ready for a rest. You look across the whole team, the whole squad, man, it is the game. It takes a lot out of you, both physically and mentally. Obviously, the effort it takes to prepare and focus, it's a lot. And obviously physically getting yourself ready, that takes a lot as well. So, it's important that every player takes a physical rest post-season and then, get ready into the back end of the season. But you just touched on it. We're going to touch on it quickly before we look into the finals week 1 this weekend. Obviously, we're not playing this weekend. It is disappointing. From, I guess, a Cows fan, sort of. You're a Knights fan, obviously, which we'll get into later on. What did you make of it?
And again, I'm speaking for someone that's played bush footy and never at the highest level, right? But love watching the game. You're a team last year that played in a prelim, so you maybe flew under the radar a little bit. You were hunted this year, and then you went on that great little patch towards the back end. And from the outside in, it looked like, and I know you lost some players, it was almost like you had to sprint in a marathon. And you ran out of a little bit of puff towards the end?
Yeah, it was it was a weird season. We couldn't get going at the start. We missed a lot of players through injury. We had a lot of suspensions throughout the season. And then we found something, after those 2 losses in Sydney. We had a camp. We lost back-to-back games in Sydney. We came out and then we won. We went on that streak. And then, unfortunately, our momentum got holded against the Titans, and that was really disappointing. We lost 3 in a row then, and then we won 1 and then lost obviously the final game against the Panthers to make the 8, and it was disappointing because it all kind of hits you hard when you're trying to play a game to make it in the 8. But look, there is a few positives to come out of it. We debuted a lot of youngsters. I think Zach Laybud is one who stands out for me.
He's going to be a player, huh?
He had a tremendous back end of the season, but it was disappointing, mate. So,
and I know you and you in particular, Drinky, from what I hear, you're both footy nerds. How much? And I know you say, I need the physical rest, I need the mental rest. How much time a day are you spending already thinking about 2024 and what you can get right come round 1?
It's actually a good question because over the past week we've obviously been hanging out together. And I've had good conversations with a number of our guys already about next season and things that they want to improve on and things that we want to do better. And I know that from experience, when you have failure or you don't meet the expectations or standards and you get feedback, it can motivate you and give you, get you fired up. So, I've got no doubt after our break there'll be a lot of guys with a bit of fire in their belly and a bit of motivation and, wanting to come back and right a few wrongs next season. And, we just got to rip in at pre-season training. I know it's going to be, like it is, hot, tough up here, but...
a couple of hill runs.
probably. Anything could happen this preseason, but we're ready for it. We're going to bring it on. So, mate, let's park that. We'll park the Cows season. We'll move on to the teams that are still playing, and that is, first off, Friday night, Broncos versus the Storm. Mates, who wins and why?
I don't know. And you go through history books, and we know the hoodoo at Suncorp Stadium. The Broncos haven't beaten Melbourne at Suncorp since 2009. I heard from Ben Teo the other day. He was part of that Broncos side that won way back when. That's how long ago it was. I don't know how much you guys as players actually read into that stuff. Melbourne are outsiders of the bookies. I've tipped them, but maybe by a point. I got no idea. It's
going to be tight. I think, the record that the Storm has is phenomenal. That's got to be one of the best away records in the whole competition. For me, I think the Broncos win it. I think they break the hoodoo, and I think they come out and on the back of some of their superstars who have played tremendous this year, and there's probably none other than Reece Walsh, who deserves an unbelievable amount of credit with the season he's had. Let me just rattle you off some stats for Reece Walsh this year. 21 try assists, 105 tackle breaks, 17 line breaks, and 8 tries. The thing with Reece is he has elite speed. Yeah. He has elite footwork. Yeah. He has an elite passing game. They're the three things that you need to be an elite fullback, and he is in that echelon category at the moment, in my opinion, with the jump that he's made, the consistency that he's played. We saw some of the passes he made throughout the season. I mean, that one in Origin where he was no looker, just cut out pass to the winger. Yeah. He's been electrifying, and I think the way that he comes onto the ball and his combination with his other spine members, to me, he's a game breaker.
You played against Brisbane obviously twice this year. What is it like when he's on the other side? Because you've got, and let's not forget, when you play Brisbane, you've got probably arguably the two best centres in the game on either side, form-wise at the moment. Unbelievable back rowers, their pack. And then this bloke at the back, he talked about his speed. It looks like watching it, his speed off the mark too is like that. I don't know how you game plan for him.
Yeah, it's tough because the thing with Walsh is because, quite often teams will run plays where they obviously run the wide running back rower into the half and with the fullback swinging out the back. So with Walsh's speed, if you get a half who first of all has to check his man, the back rower, and then go and get Walsh out the back, a lot of the times Walsh is too quick and he's getting into that centre position out the back, creating the extra man and throwing the long pass. So to answer your question, what it's like, it's pretty scary, to be honest, because of the speed that he has. And first of all, like as a half, defensively, you've got two jobs. You've got to check the back rower. If they play short, you've got to get into this tackle. But if he then goes deep into the line and plays out the back, then you've got to check him and then go and get Reece Walsh. And a lot of the time, like I said, his speed is the thing that's most worrying. If you go too quick, too fast, here's the chance of changing an angle. He'll burn you with a left foot. Yeah. And if you don't get there in time, he obviously creates the overlap and then will either play short or long. And I think with Reece, his progression in his passing game with his speed has made him one of the most dangerous threats in the competition. And I think, add a kick on there too, Elliot, because there's been times where the defence has rushed him. They've come up and in, and he's just been like, all right, I'll just put it on the toe and put it in behind you.
Just like unheralded confidence.
Unheralded confidence. For a young kid, I think he's only, 57 games into his NRL career. He's obviously already played Origin. He's destined for big things if he continues to put up, some of these performances with his stats. But he's just got no fear. Like
do you ever play the old it was like rugby league on the PlayStation 2 or whatever? I used to thrash that game, and you used to you could cheat and make your players 99 everything. He reminds me of that every time, especially when he's on. And we call that game where you guys played the Broncos at home, and the Broncos won without Adam Reynolds. He was outstanding, but the best player on the field was Ezra Mam. And you think about all these players that are superstars and genuine superstars, the improvement in Ezra Mam is up there with anyone else in the competition.
Yep, I couldn't agree more with you. I think he's been some of his support play, his footwork, even some of his defensive reads. I mean, I watched a few interviews throughout the season, and I saw Ezra talking about him working on his defensive reads, and for that, as a half or a three-man, as we like to call him in the NRL, to be talking about defensive reads, I thought was really important, because a lot of the time you speak about defensive reads would be the winger or the centre. You know, when to jam, when to hold off. But as a 3-man, as a half, you know, the Broncos traditionally this season have had very aggressive 3-man. So they've obviously something they've identified and worked at to try and shut down the play. A lot of the time, if you're watching the game this weekend, you'll see, you know, the Storm forwards playing together and Adam Reynolds shooting out the back to try and shut things down. It's the same with Ezra Mam. And more often than not, I think Ezra's done a tremendous job at some of his defensive reads for a little fella too. I think with their team, just quickly, Elliot, like they've had the luxury of being able to put out the same team for the majority of the season, which in my opinion is one thing that creates consistency, continuity and combination. And if you can have, you know, your main guys playing over 20 games throughout the season, that to me is, you know, you're already on the way to success. But what else are the keys you see for the Broncos there, Elliot?
And I know we'll get to the Melbourne team in a second. Obviously, you know Justin Olam, you got Marion Seve and young Tonamapia, who are really good first-grade players. But I think this is the moment that we maybe see Katoni Staggs fire in, and I'm not saying he hasn't ever owned a big moment, but he'll admit himself when it came to Origin, he probably didn't have the game he wanted to have. I'm expecting him to go feral in the best possible way this weekend. I can't wait to watch him. And you know, you got Jordan Ricky in there, who again is someone that has improved out of sight. Billy Walters, you talk about improved players in the competition. Geez, he'd almost be number one at this stage. They're a hard team to fault across the park. And then you look at their bench. And again, you played against Brandon Piakura. When he played against the Cowboys, that was one of the best games. It was almost a breakout game for him too. They got all these kids that just when you think the Broncos' depth, it could be tested a little bit. These names that you haven't necessarily heard of before coming through that could be genuine superstars.
Yep, I couldn't agree more with you. I think Piakura has done a tremendous job since he got his opportunities come into the team and really just kept his own, kept his spot. Let's touch on the Broncos forwards before we move over to the Storm. Obviously, Payne Haas. I mean, we haven't even spoken about Payne Haas in the season he's had. Like,
Mr.
unbelievable.
Consistent, isn't he?
Mate, he has, you know, he's got to be the best front rower in the game. You know, Kurt Capewell, Jordan Ricky, Pat Carrigan again, who's had another good year. Their bench is Tyson Smoothie, Piakura, Hetherington, and Palacia. I mean, you just got to look at their reserves. Corey Oates unfortunately misses out. Martin Tapau, Corey Jensen, Jock Madden, Tristan Saylor, guys who have all done their jobs when they've come in and been required this year.
Tristan Saylor's actually been a good story because he came there to start with on a train and trial. And then got in that top 30. Whenever he's played first grade, there's 5 or 6 clubs in the competition that I know he's not available. He's been signed up by Brisbane for another year. If he was, geez, there would have been some clubs interested the way he played. Yep,
I agree with you. I think he's shown a lot this season to be a quality starter in the future years. Let's switch it over to the Storm. Yeah. As we mentioned off the top, you know, their record at Suncorp Stadium speaks for itself. You know, the combination of, for me, and their key to winning is Munster, Hughes, and Grant. Their spine, their representative class spine. How do you see these three combining on Friday night?
Again, watching them, and you can talk more playing against them. I love watching those three because of the unpredictability. I know so many teams have their shapes and whatever, and Melbourne do have certain ones when they attack, but when Cameron Munster gets the ball, it's like a great movie. Like with an unpredictable ending. Like you got no idea whether he's going to step 7 times off his left, if he's going to kick, if he's going to throw a cutout pass, if he's going to double dummy. How do you even go about playing against him? Because can you plan for him when he's got so much in his arsenal?
You can't. No. I think you just have to identify where Munster is, and if you can, you put an extra number on Munster because you're right. The unpredictability, the goose step. You know, it's unorthodox, a little bit unorthodox, but he's dummy, like it's very, very sharp. He plays on instinct. Like he doesn't, you can tell he's probably not a massive fan of structure, probably just more a fan of just playing footy, playing what's in front, getting a quick play ball, getting over the advantage line, taking on short sides, throwing dummies, throwing cutout balls, support play. And then you throw in Hughes, who has been great. You know, the level of how straight he plays as a ball player to create space for Munster has been something that I've really watched closely. And then we spoke about Harry Grant, who, again, if there's a quick play ball around the ruck, he's often creating havoc, isn't he?
And then you got, and you'll get to them, I'm sure, on your bench you've got this Ferrari just parked there. But it probably, with Pappenhausen coming back and he's played a couple of games now, he looks like he's pretty much at 100%. You probably applaud the job Nick Meaney's done to keep his starting position. And also, I mean, the Storm are still a top 4 side even without one of their superstars. That's how good a season Nick Meaney's had.
Yep, 100%. I think Nick Meaney deserves a lot of credit for the season he's had. Obviously, not a huge name with regards to respectfully, comparing him to Pappenhausen and what he's done, but mate, he's been almost the most improved player of the competition. And his goal kicking has been rock solid as well, something Melbourne have probably lost a little bit since the retirement of Cameron Smith. But where does little puppy Pappenhausen, where's he come on, do you think?
Well, when he played a couple of weeks ago, that he came on, he played as almost a 13 or an extra half, and they've said that's probably what his role will be. The biggest thing that scares me for Melbourne is that he's cut his mullet off.
Yeah.
I saw some footage the other day. I'm thinking, that's where all the magic is. The longer the mullet got, the better he became as a player. So I hope he doesn't go out there and have a dribbler, because that, it's nothing on his ability. That is the hair. I was devastated. I saw a photo. I was like, what is going on?
Just a quick off topic. That reminds me of Toby Rudolph, ex-teammate of mine, good friend. He grew his hair.
Yes.
And he shaved it, and then he said, before this season, I think he got injured, and he's like, I'm never shaving my hair again. I'm superstitious about my hair. Then this year, he did world's greatest shave. He shaved it. And I don't know if he got injured before or after the shave, but he got injured with another toe injury, and he's just so superstitious about his hair. So, I mean, fingers crossed, little puppy. We hope you don't get injured this week. But there's Melbourne fans that rock up with mullets and that. Are they going to still wear the wigs, or don't wear that anymore?
I don't know. It's got to come back. I think he'll be looking at the mirror as we speak, obviously in between prepping for the biggest game of the season. He'll be looking in the mirror thinking, what have I done? What have I done? A couple of your bowl haircuts throughout your career. There's a couple of odd choices there. Where
I've had plenty of wild haircuts.
I'm sure you've looked back, or you've looked at your Google images when you're searching your name and think, why did I do that?
Yeah, I've definitely looked at that. There's been a couple of wild haircuts.
The slick back, I forget, was that the Warriors?
The Warriors, there's a couple there. Yeah. I'm actually going to grow it now in the break, actually. I'm going to come up with something. A
little ratty.
Something different. Definitely.
The Kuli Kefu Fini Fuyaki.
Nah, definitely not doing the ratty. Nah. Maybe mullet, maybe just long. And
gorgeous.
I don't know. We'll see. I quickly want to touch on Eli Katoa, Elliot.
Yep.
Much improved player coming across from the Warriors. Hard running back row. He's basically nailed down that back row position this season. What have you seen from him this year? Much improved player.
Yeah, I think a lot of people got excited when they saw, and he's a raw talent at the Warriors, and any raw talent that gets to be coached by Craig Bellamy, you're like, oof, this could be anything. I reckon he'd admit too he started a little bit slow. His hands let him down maybe the first, let's say, 8 weeks of the competition. The back half, though, and I know he's injured for a little period, the back half, he's scoring tries for fun. He looks like, and you play with some great back rowers in Jeremiah and Nene. You got Hillam Luki, Luciano, a whole heap at the clubs. The best ones look like they're shot out of a cannon when they run through a hole, and Britton Nakora's probably like that too from the Sharks. And I don't know, the timing he's got with his halves at the moment looks like they're just so in sync.
Yep, I agree with that. I think you can tell that he's been a bit hungrier with the way that he's played.
Yep.
I saw him score a try the other week off a kick where he just wanted the ball and he had that desire to get there. So a much improved player for mine. Mate, let's wrap it up with the first game. Like I said, I am going to go with the Broncos. I'm going to stick with them. I just think that their home ground advantage, the speed that they have, their spine, their forwards, I think are going to be too strong for the Storm. Mate, where do you staying? You sitting?
I'll go Melbourne by a point.
Okay. All right.
Which means I got no idea.
Regardless, it's going to be a mouth-watering clash. It's going to be a great game, mate. Let's move on to the next game, which is the Panthers versus the Warriors. I'm not going to say it. I can't say it. As an ex-Warrior, look, I will say this. I am very, very happy to see the Warriors doing well.
Up the wires.
You can say it. I won't say it. But I just think with regards to New Zealand and what has happened, obviously with COVID and the sacrifice that the Warriors made, I know a lot of people have spoken about that, and I saw it a little bit firsthand with guys living away from family and in the bubble, etc. But to have they've sold out, like, I think nearly every single game this season. They've got them, to me, the most support. They're probably the underdogs at the moment, but they're getting. I think they're everyone's second team. Would you agree?
Yeah, it does seem to be rolling out that way, and for good reason. You just mentioned what they as a club did for rugby league during that period. I don't think will ever be forgotten. And I watched the one-on-one the other day with it was Jake Duke and Andrew Webster, the new Warriors coach, and you can see why the players are bought in with him. He almost seems like, I don't know if you've had any run-ins with Andrew, almost seems like the perfect personality fit for that club. And geez, what he's done. And I know we talk about Coach of the Year. It looks like it could end up being Kevy Walters. I'd argue Andrew Webster has done more with a squad that probably most of us thought wouldn't be as high as they are.
Yeah, definitely. Fun little fact, I actually was coached by Andrew Webster when I was at the Warriors in 2015.
Right.
He was assistant coach under Andrew McFadden. So Webby and I, because my partner, who's now my wife, would go back home to Sydney for a couple of weeks, and Webby would invite me over to his place for dinner.
Right.
So we used to go over to Webby's house for dinner, talk a bit of footy.
Is he as chill as he seems?
He's very chill, very chill. But when it's time to coach, he's very serious, very direct. I'll tell you what, one thing with Webby that I really liked was his directness and how he could deliver his message, whether it was in a drill at training. If it was a drill and he was explaining it, you could tell it was the most important thing in his life at that moment was that drill and the way he explained it. Very clear. So it doesn't surprise me what he's been able to do this season. I think, we touched on, again, having a consistent team for the Broncos, and I think the Warriors have had that same luxury.
They have, and what Sean Johnson's done himself, but also what Webster and the coaching staff have done with Sean Johnson, and we've seen the resurgence of some veteran halfbacks this year. I know Reynolds and Daly Cherry Evans were in good form. They're arguably in career best form, and then out of the ashes, I certainly didn't pick Sean Johnson to be the odds-on Dally M favourite.
Yeah, I don't think many people would have after last season. And I think the Warriors finished second last year. My man, Sean Johnson, got a lot of love for Sean. And I'm unbelievably proud of him as a mate to see the resurgence and to see the season he's had. Yeah. I've got down some Sean Johnson stats here because I want to highlight these. 22 forced dropouts, 27 try assists, 24 line break assists, 80% goal kicking, 8 tries. Yep. But for me, it is the maturity and the patience that he has played with all season that has been the most pleasing thing to watch. He has kicked other teams to death. He's kicked early. He's forced pressure with his kicking game. You know, some of the decisions that he's made consistently in games throughout the season, he has won them games single-handedly. And that is, to me, when you're a bit of an older halfback, you play a little bit different. And to me, Sean's playing differently to when he was 10 years ago. Yeah. But I think this has been his best season of his whole career.
And the try assist stat is wild because out of everything he's done, you mentioned how good his kicking game is, he control games and whatever. Last year, Nico Hines had one of the best individual seasons we've ever seen in our life. He had 22 try assists, which is still a mammoth amount. Sean has 27 after the regular season. Added on top to everything else he did. Added on top to as well, he's had to, through injury, chop and change his half partner. He's had Ronald Volkman playing there. Tamate Martin comes back in this week. Luke Metcalf, who looks like he's going to be a superstar if the poor bugger can stay on the field. I know they have consistent with a lot of their team, but you'll attest to this. Knowing that you're playing with Tommy Dearden every week helps.
Definitely.
He's had 4 different partners.
Yeah, and to put it like that, that's unbelievable. Yeah. And I think the one thing that, again, let's give credit to Andrew Webster, is because Sean obviously has his role within the team, right? He dominates the kicking. He dominates more the right side of the field and the middle side of the field. And that other half, who we just spoke about, the 4 guys, would come in and predominantly sit on that left and ride that side of the field. So those guys have obviously been in tune with what their role is and understood, whether it's through Sean, which I've got no doubt Sean is the one who's speaking and telling them what they need to do. Coach Webster saying, hey, this is what you're expected to do. Yep. This is what Sean does. This is how we play.
Yeah, and then you just see players around and getting better. Jackson Ford, probably a kid that not many of us knew that much about when he was at the Dragons. Has been scoring tries for fun over there, been so good on that left edge. We know the Wade Egan story. You talked about Payne Haas being the best prop in the game. The only one I reckon that challenges him at the moment is Adam Fanua-Blake. There's a couple of boys in Penrith too outstanding, but the season Fanua-Blake's put together, again, he's a beast.
Fanua-Blake, he could have 200 run meters and not get spoken about in the post game. Yeah, debrief.
Well, I mean, let's be honest.
Standard.
If he was an Aussie, whether he was Queensland or New South Wales, he'd be starting on either side in the front row.
Yep.
You've played against him. I don't understand. You look at his legs. I remember watching him live. Him and Dave Fafita have the biggest quads I've ever seen in my life. I'm thinking, what do you try to tackle with these men?
Yeah.
You just bite down the mouth guard and hope for the best. He is humongous.
The thing with Adam is he'll come at you straight in your chest, and then boom, he'll hit you with a step, and then get in between you.
How does
in
he
between
move
defenders
that well?
and get down, and before you know it, he's broke his nose through the line. He's down. He's either offloading or he's getting down quick play the ball. The Warriors are off. You just touched on Wade Egan, who again I think's been phenomenal.
Yeah.
Really, really crafty. The thing I love about Wade Egan, and if you're watching the game this weekend, watch when the Warriors get close to the try line. They have a lot of forwards who will run, hard, direct lines close to the ruck. Wade Egan will go so deep into the line, and without even looking, he's thrown a pass. His arms are going straight across his chest, not even looking, and it will hit Sean Johnson, who's about 12 metres back, on the chest. Sucks in defenders. And to me, he's probably the best in the league at it with his hands, his craftiness, his creativity. What have you made of Wade Egan this year?
They called him Mr. Reliable over there. I watched an interview SJ did with him maybe a month back, and he said exactly the same thing. He said his service is the best he's ever had out of dummy half. And add on top of that, his running game's pretty strong itself. He scores a few tries out of dummy half, but his defence too, he's rock solid. Again, he's the kind of bloke you'd love in your side, and quite clearly those boys are loving playing with him.
You just mentioned Jackson Ford before, who was one of the new recruits this year. I mean, chuck in, who else is there? Dylan Walker, Mitch Barnett, Nia Corey, guys who have come over and added a lot to this Warriors team and made a real difference. So they're going to be hard to beat, but they're coming up against the back-to-back champs at home who have claimed another minor premiership. How does this machine, the Panthers, how do they get stopped?
I thought we'd seen the blueprint a couple of weeks ago, and it wasn't actually the game they lost against the Eels. I thought it was Manly's first 20 minutes against them. And I know Manly went on to lose, but they almost played a form of touch footy. They were just spreading the ball inside their own end, and it troubled the Panthers. But then again, you speak of machine, you saw them on the fly work out how to stop it, and they switched it. We called the game on the weekend, you guys playing them, and calling it, you look at the score then, it's 44-12. I didn't think the Cowboys were bad. Honestly, you watch this Penrith team and their play the ball speed, their line speed in defence, the culture is quite clearly one thing, but what they put on the field, watching that game reaffirmed for me they're the premiership favourites. Yep.
I think, to me, the way that the Panthers play is, they're not a team who are very flashy, who play with exuberant style and go sideline to sideline. In yardage, they rely on their back five a lot. So To'o, Crichton, Taruva, Tungo, these guys get them out of their back end, which gives their forwards a bit of a breather. And it's not uncommon for these guys to come off with 150, 200 run meters after a game, which is phenomenal. By far, to me, the best back five running team in the competition. And then after that, you got Isaiah Yeo in the middle, who's the link man between him and Nathan Cleary. Nathan Cleary is a person who stays in the middle. He swings both sides. A lot of the time, he'll be passing to Cleary out the back. He'll drop a middle forward underneath him, or he'll show and then run himself. So they play a very simple style of football that they're accustomed to. But the thing that they do better as well than any other team is they do the basics well. They run hard. They're very aggressive in defence. And they chase kicks unbelievably hard. The amount of tries they score off kicks, they compete on kicks like no other team. You watch Liam Martin next time the ball goes in the air. You watch Stephen Crichton next time the ball goes in the air. They compete harder on kicks than any other team in the competition. And that's something that I think that has put them in good stead over the last couple of years.
Are they, and you look at the great, let's say, NFL teams throughout history, a lot of them had, even though they keep winning, almost that chip on their shoulder, the us against them mentality. Is that something Penrith have?
I think so. I think, you talk about the start of the year, and obviously every year they're going to probably lose players because of salary cap and, the success that they've had and players getting better offers from other teams. And every year there's probably going to be some people that say, hey, they're going to take a step back this year. And you take that personal. Like, you take it with a chip on your shoulder, like, hey, I'm going to show you.
Yeah.
And whether it's you're taking it out on the opposition or you're taking it out in the mainstream media, like, it's speaking as a player, like when people talk about you in a negative light, you want to prove them wrong.
How do the Warriors find a way to beat this Penrith side?
The Warriors, I mean, we hear a lot of commentators talk about you got to play the Panthers differently. You got to be unorthodox. And you spoke about Manly before. You got to kick on, tackle zero. You got to do all these different sorts of stuff.
Not what Ruben Garrick did that day. I reckon he regrets that one, like Pappy's haircut. Yeah.
Which is great, I think, to show. Maybe not for a semi-final. I mean, the Warriors have shown this season that they can go toe-to-toe with a team and play the long game.
Yeah.
They can be patient. They can back their goal line defence. They've got that in them. The way that Sean has shown his control, his kicking game, his repeat sets, and the defensive effort on the try line that Andrew Webster has instilled, to me, puts them in good stead. I think they take their opportunities. You don't get many opportunities against the Panthers. And if they can force the Panthers to come off their try line a lot, take the gas out of their middle forwards, I'm not sure if the Panthers just quickly... they've got Tyron Peachy on the bench, who will be required to come in and play hooker. Mitch Kenny comes back this week at number 9.
Aren't they a breeding ground for nines? Because obviously we had Appy there, Mitch Kenny, who I don't think gets the raps he deserves, Sonny Luke, and then this kid that played last week, Luke Summerton, who's a local junior there, came through. I think he played with St Mary's when he came through. He was outstanding, and that's their 4th-string hooker.
I think they're breeding around for every position, to be honest. I mean, you look at their junior reps, the Harold Matthews, under 16, I think it's still under 16s, SG Ball, Flegg. Like, they've continually got guys who have come in and done a job. And I think, what they're doing out there with rugby league, I don't know what they're putting the foot of the mountains, what are they putting in the water out there? But, like...
Every time I talk to Mark Geyer, he's beaming from, ear to ear, because they'd said the good times just keep rolling in the West. Yeah,
I mean, it is a good time if you're a Panthers fan. But let's... all right. So we said no sitting on the fence today.
No.
I said I'm not going to sit on the fence with some of my selections too, because... but let's go. Who wins?
Yep.
Why?
Yeah, thanks for coming to me first. I'm going Penrith 13+ at home after what I saw last week. I know. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful whatsoever. I've loved watching this Warriors team. I think for this week at least, the fairy tale is halted, and I think we see the real Panthers.
Okay. For me, I'm going to go Panthers as well. I just think with the juggernaut, I know they're missing Luai. I think Jack Cogger's done a great job when he's come in and done the job that he's required to do. Like I said, their back five to me are unbelievably strong. I think they get home from just being the Panthers and what they've done and the way that they play, I think can be good enough. And also, obviously, playing at home. I think they've lost 2 or 3 games there in the past the past couple of seasons.
You probably didn't have a chance to look up because that ball was in play a lot last week. Some of the amazing fans they had in the crowd last week, there was one great shot of a dad and his son that are both whipping their shirts off in 6-degree cold and celebrating, having wonderful times. The kid looked like he was about 8. I think he had a couple of sleeve tattoos already. It was just, it's a wild, rowdy bunch in the Riff, and I love it. It's gonna be an awesome watch.
Yeah, it'll. Yeah, so I'm gonna go Panthers. Yeah. I don't think it'll be 13+.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a tighter game than that. I think the Warriors will show a lot of heart and a lot of fight, and that won't surprise me because of what they've put on the board this year. Which would then, I guess, if the Warriors were to lose, would send them home for a home final the following week.
Yeah, against either Newcastle or Canberra.
Yeah, so... If that was regardless if they lose or they win, they're going to get a home final at some stage.
That'll be massive.
That'll be unbelievably huge. But let's move on to the next game, which is the Sharks versus the Roosters. Now, there's been a lot of talk this week in the mainstream media about where this game should be played. Obviously, at the moment, I think it's still PointsBet Stadium can only seat 12,000 people with the renovations that are still happening at Shark Park. Allianz Stadium, which obviously seats, I think, 30 or 40,000. I want to put you on the spot. Where should this game be played?
Where it's being played. And I get a lot of fans are missing out, but this is the Sharks' home. It is. Allianz Stadium isn't the Sharks' home, and they've just earned the right to have a home final. So, again, I empathise. I'm sure they'll be having big watching parties, like that kind of thing. And Wade Graham, I heard him speak saying, hey, look, we'd desperately love to see the stadium here get upgraded over the next few years, but, whether you're in a tin pot stadium of 2,000 people or 50,000, your home is your home, and if you earn the right to play there, you play there.
I 100% agree with you.
Okay.
I think this game, the Sharks have deserved, with the season they've had,
Yeah.
deserved a home game. And regardless of, whether it's 12, 13 or whatever, they've earned the right to do it, to make that decision for this week. And everyone else just has to get on with it, because you're not taking the game to Allianz Stadium. It's the Roosters' home game. Like, it'd be like them having a home game. You know how much a home final, how important it is to have your level of support, your fans there. To me, I think it's a no-brainer. Even though, just previously back on some experience, when we had some success at the Sharks. We actually had a lot of success at the old Allianz Stadium. I actually used to like playing there in the finals. So, I don't know, it might have been week 1 or whatever. We weren't allowed to actually play at Shark Park. I don't know why. But anyway.
Shark Park, you said 12, 13,000, you get jammed in there. How many does it sound like, though?
Sounds like 40,000. The Shire faithful, they're loud, and they're very ruthless to the opposition.
Yeah, exactly. So, again, earn the right. That's your home.
Yep, definitely. Let's get into the game and speak a little bit about the Sharks first. To me, I want to highlight Britton Nakora, Elliot. I think he's had an outstanding season. He's played all 24 games this year, scored 8 tries. Defensively, some of his work. But you mentioned before in the pod about the way he runs his lines. He's probably one of the elite back rowers in the competition with his line running. Can
you simplify that a bit? Because it doesn't matter what call you listen to, what channel is showing the game. If Britton Nakora is in shot, they will always, one of the experts will say, he's the best hole running back rower in the competition. What does that mean, and how has he mastered it?
So I think it's a combination of a couple of things. Yeah. Firstly, it's his timing with his halfback. So if a halfback goes into the line and the back rower is right next to him, obviously not in front of him because it'd be a forward pass, but if he's right next to him on time, that is hard to handle. If he's a metre or 2 back behind him, it gives the defence time to read. So first and foremost, he's always on time. He's got great timing with his halves. He runs unbelievably hard. And he's got a little bit of a knack and an ability to cut off his right foot and cut the defensive line in half a little bit, which makes it even harder if you're an opposition half we spoke about before, defending the back rower and then going to Reece Walsh. Well, it makes it harder for you to firstly defend Britton Nakora, and then if he's running hard, he's on time, and he's running that hard angle, you really have to sink in and check and honour him because of how hard he runs.
He would have started with you at the Sharks?
Yeah, he did. He made his debut in 2019 once Luke Lewis retired.
How quickly was he that kind of hole runner?
Straight away. I think he played for the Kiwis that year. I mean, he learnt off, someone like Luke Lewis, who again had those qualities, great line runner, on time, had that ability to cut off his right foot. Britt's done exactly the same. He has had a phenomenal season with the way he's run the ball, and it hasn't surprised me. Let's touch on again a couple of their players. And we spoke before about a lot of the successful teams or more successful teams this year have had guys who have played a lot of football. Coaches have had the luxury of putting out the same team sheet week in and week out. You touch on the Sharks players. We just spoke about Britton Nakora, who's played 24 games. Blake Brayley's played 24 games, throw in 10 tries. Jesse Ramey and Sione Katoa have all played 24 games. And there might be a couple. I think Jack Williams has missed 1. Cameron McInnes has missed 2. But these guys have had the luxury of playing together over long periods of time. What's impressed you about the Sharks this year?
Besides what Connor Tracy's been able to come in and do at fullback, replacing Will Kennedy, who is a really wonderful player, their bench, and you played against them recently, their bench of Royce Hunt, Tommy Hazelden, and I think it was Jack Williams when I last watched him live.
And Oregon Kaufusi as well.
And Kaufusi's there at the moment too. What they're able to do when their bench is on, it looks like they're just very direct. I actually saw Tommy Hazelden, the 7'8" guru from Goulburn. He sat down with Jack and Royce before they went onto the field in a game I watched them play, and quite clearly they had a very simple message. They all ran for over 100 metres. They got through their work. I think a couple of tries between them as well. I think their bench is criminally underrated.
Yep, I agree. You look at those 4 boys, all big boys, big motors, big lurch. Tommy Hazelton's really taken his opportunity and just run with it.
That's pretty rare, by the way, too, is to see 4 big boppers on the bench these days.
Well, I think we spoke about Blake Brayley and the durability that he's had this season. Played every game. He might might have even played every minute of every game.
Origin camp as well.
Camp. He's durable, Blake, and he's only a little fella, plays well above his weight.
Yeah.
Got a great defensive technique as well, makes a ton of tackles.
Will he play Origin one day?
Yep, I think so.
Yeah.
I think the future of Origin for the Blues at hooker is
Yeah.
Reece Robson and Blake Brayley.
Right.
I think those two will play. One will start, one will come off the bench for a long time. They're the same age and both very good players. I just want to quickly touch on the Sharks, and they're number one in shifts in the competition. So we spoke before about the Panthers, not really exuberant with the way they move the ball, but the Sharks they are that side. They are a team that will shift and back their ability. Obviously, they've got Nico Hines, Braden Trindle, who's come in and done a great job since he got his opportunity. But they are number one in shifts. So they do move the ball a lot. They do like to attack. They like to give their outside backs early ball, create some space. And the way they attack is they move the ball a lot with their middles, and they tip on, and they will move it to the two halves or the four-man defending on either edges. So if they've come from the left side, they'll either use it with a middle to tip on into the other four-man and three-man, get them in the tackle, and then get other defenders, middle forwards, down the short side. And that's why you see, guys like Nico Hines and Trindle taking a lot of short sides and a lot of runs. They forced you to fill up your short side, and if you have a big man who is too slow to come down the short side, you get the numerical overlap, and that's how they play. They do that. Then if they don't get it looked there, then they'll come back the other side and they'll break it down, and it forces the defense to almost move side to side. You're just coming up and back. You're not just coming back. You're going side to side. Players are having to force and reshuffle. So they they back themselves with the ball, Elliot.
Do you think they can get it done again? And I'll go through the Roosters side in a second, but I know they've had a couple of strong performances. I don't know if that scoreline against Canberra was fair, because the send-off of Sebastian Chris happened when the score was 10-6. The Raiders probably owned that first half, and the Raiders were out of touch going into that. I worry a little bit about the Sharks' form going into this one. What
do the Sharks need to do to win this game against the Roosters?
I mean, you know better than me, but I mean, when they're clicking, Nico Hines is running the ball. When they're clicking, they're giving, you mentioned before, blokes like Siosifa, Talakai, early ball as well, and their forwards seem to own it too. But as a fan of, you mentioned before, Newcastle, I was scared of how the 8 was going to fall into place, because the one team I really didn't want to play, obviously other than the Cowboys, was the Roosters, because they just have championship mentality written off. I think they were 14th, 6 or 7 weeks ago, and people say, they Bradbury'd into the 8. The last 2 months of footy they put together, and with Sammy Walker back the last couple of weeks, been excellent.
Yeah, I think they were on a 6-game winning streak at the moment.
Luke Keary back in top form too, Teddy.
Yeah, they are a dangerous team. I mean, you can't write off the Roosters the way that they've been able to get themselves into the 8, the back end of the year, some of the adversity they've faced all season. You spoke about Sam Walker, an absolute X-factor, great young player, comes back into the side after what's been probably a pretty tough year for the young fella.
Yeah.
Looks like he hasn't missed a beat, hasn't he? Just, to me, he backs himself with the kick, footwork, pass. To me, he can win them this game this weekend.
Yeah, well, and he has the last couple of weeks. And what I love about Sam is that, he's in his early 20s. You go back to then, and look, you're a more level-headed, better bloke than me. If I got dropped from my local bush footy team when I was in my early 20s, I would have thrown my toys out of the cot. I would have moped. Everything you heard about him during his injury rehab, during playing for the Bears in New South Wales Cup is first to training, first to get all this done, first to game day, doing all the extra prep, never whinged, was on board 100%. I feel like he's the kind of kid where he feels like nothing is owed to him, and I don't know, you'd know more about the coaching side of it. It looks like the Roosters took the shackles off a little bit the last couple of weeks and just let him be Sam.
Yeah, I think, and it probably wouldn't feel like it now for Sam, but in the long term, that'll be the best thing for him. I think you spoke about the motivation from failure, and obviously, you look at getting dropped as a bit of a failure.
Yep.
Going through those tough times and being motivated to be better and work on your game. And you just spoke about, his mentality. I think it's phenomenal for such a young kid to bounce back. But like I said, the Roosters are a dangerous team. You know, they've got Teddy, Joseph Manu's back in the team, Luke Keary, who's had another great year this year.
Is he someone that probably doesn't get the raps he deserves? Because I don't know, he's had a couple of down games this year, but again, the last couple of months of footy, I don't know if everything Luke Keary does shows up on the telly for us.
Luke Keary is the leader of their team.
Yeah.
You look at who's talking, who's directing the troops around, who's competing hard. It's Luke Keary.
Yeah.
He's the guy. He's the experienced guy. He's won multiple premierships. He knows what he's doing. To me, you just said he might not get the full credit of what he does, but being a half and a peer and someone who likes to watch a lot of footy, I understand the value of Luke Keary to the Roosters. And I know the Roosters, if you asked anyone on their team, they would say the same thing. The thing with the Roosters is they like to come straight at you through the front door.
Yep.
They back their ability to run hard, to be aggressive, to have line speed. Obviously, they're missing JWH and with suspension, but Lindsay Collins has been someone who has stepped up this year, hasn't he?
Yeah, oh, what a player. I mean, you just watch State of Origin, that's all you need to know. And you talk about all effort. I don't know what it is, and he's been a very good first grader in previous seasons. Something this year has just, he's going Super Saiyan. He's the most beautiful man in rugby league. He's 9 foot tall as well.
Yeah.
And just the fact that they were stepped up the way they did without JWH last week. Big game Brandon Smith, he's the first to admit that he had a tough most of this year, but he was one of the best players on the field last week as well.
And he'll be up for this week.
Yeah.
The Cheese, the way he competes. For me, I think if the Roosters are to win this game, they need to defend well.
Yep.
We spoke about the Sharks before being number one in shifts, number one, in the way they move the ball.
Yep.
The Roosters need to defend well. They need to win a lot of their tackles, slow the Sharks ruck down, fill up their short sides. And if they can defend well, that'll give themselves a chance to win them. But let's wrap this one up, Elliot. Who wins and why in this game?
I think we're going to disagree on this one. I think the Roosters get this one done.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go the Sharkies.
Yeah.
I just think the Sharkies at home, the support they'll have there, the crowd, and I'm going to pick them to get it done.
So we've agreed on one so far. Yeah.
All right, let's move into the last round. The last game
Yep.
of week 1 of the finals, and that is your boys, the Newcastle Knights. So for people who may not know, Elliot is an avid, diehard, tragic Knights fan. They take on the Canberra Raiders in Newcastle.
Yep.
And mate, as a Knights fan, tell me your thoughts on this season.
It's strange having hope because you got to understand, I went through a long period of my childhood and even adult life where the team struggled, and you'd be happy if you'd snuck into the finals or anything like that. Now I look at each week, I'm like, geez, we could win this week. We could win if we play the Warriors next week. We could maybe get to a prelim, and you just don't know what happens. So it's been an unbelievable ride. I think, and I know I'm biased, I think what Kalen Ponga has gone through with his head knocks and everything off the field and all that kind of thing, to what he's turned on to be the form player of the competition is one of the great. We've seen some unbelievable individual seasons throughout this history in our NRL. This one is, Jesus, got to be right up there at the top.
The thing with the Knights is they have momentum at the moment.
Yeah.
A lot of momentum. And they won 7 in a row? 9 in a row.
9 in a row.
9 in a row, which is an unbelievable feat as it is. So 9 in a row. Cement yourself a home semi-final, have the ability to rest players in the final round, freshen up. To me, having momentum at this time of the season is really important.
Yep.
And the Knights have it. And if you don't have momentum, it is really hard. Like outside the game, in the lead up to the game, you talk about momentum. Then in the game, you talk about momentum. If you have momentum during the game, everything feels easy. You feel like you're running downhill, you're kicking on the front foot, attacking on the front foot, and if you're defending and you're on the back foot with no momentum, you feel like you're trying to stop this team coming downhill. So the one thing the Knights have at the moment is they have a lot of momentum. You spoke about Ponga. I'm pretty sure at their awards night the other night, he won their Player of the Year.
Yep.
He's been a standout for them. Obviously, you said before, he's overcome a lot of adversity.
Frizzell's he's had some wonderful years in first grade. I'd argue this has been his best.
And that was going to be the next person I wanted to highlight was Frizz, who I think has had his best season in the game. has kept it really simple, run hard, led by example. Been an absolute standout, Frizz, I think.
Well, what's he like as a bloke? Because he seems so softly spoken, but I don't think he'd ever say a nasty word about anyone.
Nah, very, very softly spoken.
Yeah.
Very, very chill,
Yeah.
Frizz. Frizz and I go way back. Actually, we played under 20s together in a few games at the Sharks, early days. Frizz is very softly spoken. He is also pretty cheeky as well, actually, Frizz. Softly spoken cheeky.
Right.
But a great teammate, a great team guy. He's always willing to get around the boys. He's had a big season. I think him and his wife welcomed their third boy this year. So, he's got plenty happening at home, but he has done a great job. And you add in the likes of some of their back five, to me, Elliot's been really, really impressive. Dom Young, Bradman Best and Greg Marju, I think, have had their best seasons in the NRL so far.
Easily. And Greg Marju was a guy that was left out of the team week one because they were a little bit worried about his defence. It's something that he's still addressing, but Jesus got a lot better. Dom Young, I'll cry and have a vigil when he goes to the Chooks next year. He's just broke the club record for most tries in a season. But you look at a couple of blokes that I'll call them strays because I think I am one. And these are people that aren't for everyone, but if you get them in the right environment, geez, it can click. And I'm talking about Tyson Gamble and Jackson Hastings. And I know Jackson will be the first to admit, first few years in first grade, probably butter heads a few people and whatever. He's come back after winning a Man of Steel in the UK, had a good season at the Tigers, then that injury. And when Newcastle landed him, I thought, this could be what we're missing, a game-controlling half that kicks to corners. And he's just... and again, you being a halfback can say more. I think it's been understated how he's been able to give Bradman Best early ball, how he's been able to set up shape for Callum Ponga. I think he's been immense.
Yeah, that's one of Hastings' strengths is his ability to control the game with his voice, his kicking game. Yeah. He would be the link between the coach and the team. So, you just watch, the way he is on the field. Like, he's barking orders, telling people where to go, what to do. And that's freed up guys like, Gamble. Yeah. Who's been able to come in and just fall into the structure. Same as Ponga. I mean, the Knights play, again, a little bit differently to some other teams. They have their halves swinging from side to side a lot. They'll check short sides a lot, then they'll come off to the open. They'll have a 71 option shape where they show under and then they play play out the back to someone. So they play a little bit different, some of their set plays, but the key is to get Ponga the ball. Yeah. And you get Ponga the ball in situations where he can either throw short, long, or over the top, or he can play that cut-out pass out the back. We spoke about Reece Walsh before with the speed, the kicking game, the footwork. Well, Ponga's got that as well in spades. So, those two will be battling it out for the Queensland fullback position for probably the next, 10 years.
I just hope that shoulder's good to go and they, painkilling injection, away we go. We spoke about a couple of players in terms of most improved in the competition. Phoenix Crossland for one of your great mates, Jaden Brayley, of course, unfortunately another season-ending injury. I don't think anyone expected Phoenix to come in and be as good as he has been.
I think he's done a tremendous job, and it's been in unfortunate circumstances for my mate, Jaden Brayley, but he has come in and done a tremendous job. I think he deserves a lot of credit. Some of his defence, to me, has been really, really solid. Some of the contact for an ex-half to just get thrown into the middle and really just back your defence. I think he's been a standout. And obviously, I know you're going to be picking the Knights, but we will have a look at the Raiders here as well. The Raiders, on the other hand, probably don't have a lot of momentum at the moment. What are some of the highlights for the Raiders this year?
I think highlights are they managed, especially early on, to win a lot of close games. I think they're for a long period, and don't quote me, I don't think they won maybe more than one game this year, 13 plus. They won a lot of tight tussles. The thing about the Raiders going to the finals is I'll never write them off because they've been there, done that, and Ricky's got them through tough periods, got them to grand finals, get them to prelims, that kind of thing. So I don't care who they put on the park this week. I know there's no Papali'i. Seb Chris is ruled out. It doesn't matter. A Ricky Stewart coach side, whether you love him or loathe him, I love him. I think he's great for the game. I love the personality. He will have this team up. He will have this team in the sheds, almost like a movie-inspired speech saying no one gives you probably a few effings thrown in their chance. Everyone's written you off. Everyone's saying you're off to Mad Monday tomorrow. Go prove them wrong. And And any side with Jack White in it too, I'm certainly not ruling him out.
I agree with you. I think, I spent a little bit of time with Ricky very early in my career, and one thing, Ricky is very passionate, and I'm with you because I love the Ricky Stewart press conference. I love the Ricky Stewart.
It's character. This is the thing. People always smack. Dale posts credit to the boys' interviews. Then we finally get someone like a Cheese or a Ricky with a little bit of something, and we win then.
And then the other week, I think when Ricky told the cameraman to
please go that way,
politely move on. Isn't that awesome? I love it. I just love the passion that he shows, and he's not afraid to be himself, and he stands up for his players all the time. He always backs his players. I love that about Sticky. The Raiders, you just said, they're without a couple of their big names. They've still got Jack Whiten in the side. To me, I don't think they can get over the Knights, though. I think the Raiders, unfortunately, we spoke about momentum with some of the key players that they're missing. The momentum that the Knights have, obviously playing at home, it's going to be a big ask for the Raiders, and I think the Knights win this one and win comfortably. What's your assessment?
I'm hopeful, but scared. So obviously I'm tipping Knights to win, but.
Just lastly, the way the Raiders play is they play an unorthodox style of footy, so they don't really go to sort of certain points of the field and play, the same sort of plays that Cronulla might play with the back line and giving the fullback, Jordan Rapana the chance to throw a cutout pass. Rapana, watch him play. The way he plays is like a Energizer Bunny. He'll get into dummy half. He'll take scoots. He'll be around sniffing for offloads. Hudson Young will kick for himself. You don't really see back rowers who will kick grubbers, chip and chase. So the Raiders they've got a lot of X factor, and that's the thing that could, upset the rhythm of the Knights. Defensively, that could really challenge the Knights. So keep an eye on that if you're watching the game. Just the unorthodox style that the Raiders play potentially, could help them. But for me, like I said, I think the Knights are going to be too good for this one. Can you give me a score from the Knights fan?
30-6.
30-6. Jeez, that's pretty ruthless.
Well, if I tip Golden Point, it seems like I don't believe. You know what I mean? 30-6.
All right, before we wrap it up, guys, the NFL is starting this weekend, and obviously we are both avid NFL fans, so we're going to have a quick look at the NFL. Myself, I am a Cleveland Browns fan, have been since Johnny Football came in the day. So
have you watched that doco on Netflix yet?
I have watched the doco, and everyone's talking about, I like Johnny Football now, and I'm like, mate, I've watched Johnny Football 10 years ago. So if you can get back to the Warriors and see highlights of me scoring, I'm actually doing the Johnny Manziel celebration.
Right.
I did a couple of them, and actually I did an interview the other day and I got asked about it. So, I'm a day one Manziel fan, but really a day one Browns fan. We play the Bengals. The Browns play the Bengals this weekend in what's going to be a pretty tough rivalry match. But tell me who you play. Tell me who you support and why.
Yeah, I'm a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. It actually started way back. My auntie used to be an au pair in Florida in, I think it was the late 90s, and she would send over T-shirts, and I had these old school Tampa Bay T-shirts. Got into a bit more when I was a kid, and then, geez, I tell you what, rode some waves through some quarterbacks that I reckon you probably could have thrown a tighter spiral then. Ended up landing Tom Brady, won a Super Bowl, but now everyone expects the regression. I'm telling you, Baker Mayfield, our new quarterback, is the comeback player of the year.
Yeah, well, I've got history with Baker being at the Browns, and I had Baker's jersey at the Browns, and then obviously they kind of wristled him pretty quickly and pretty unfairly, I thought. He's a much maligned player, Baker. Obviously cops a lot of criticism. But do you want to tell the listeners what we have on a bet this season?
I forgot about that. Yeah, so Mike Evans, wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, what is it, 9 straight seasons he's gone 1,000 yards or over in receiving. Chad is not a believer. He's a dream squasher. That's who he is as a human being. Has said that he won't get close. So I'm saying Mike goes over it. What was the dollar he do amount?
It was an NFL jersey.
Right. Yeah, NFL jersey of the other person's choice. So I'm going to make sure I get whatever the most expensive one is, which I think is like one of those Nike Vapor Limited or whatever they might be. I think maybe $250 a pop. I'm looking forward to that because Mike Evans is going long and yard again.
Let's take our teams out of it.
Yes.
But let's pick a way too early Super Bowl winner. Your thoughts?
I keep thinking Buffalo are going to get it done, and then they can't when it comes to business time. I know it's boring. I'm going to go to the Chiefs to back it up because they haven't done that yet. They haven't gone back to back, and I think this is the year they can.
Well, I'm going to go my way too early prediction. I'm going to go the Eagles. So that would obviously make it potentially the same rematch Super Bowl from last year. Let's quickly just go through a couple of games. We've just got a couple of minutes left before we wrap this thing up.
Yep.
You give me your winners. 49ers versus Steelers.
See, this is, and call me drunk, this is my upset for the weekend.
You're drunk.
I think Brock Purdy, who's had an off-season where he hasn't been able to take many snaps, he's been injured, he's the Mr. Irrelevant for those that don't know what it means. It's the last pick in the draft. He had a pretty good, when he got a run last year. I think he throws about 3 picks. I think the Steelers, in the upset of the round, beat the 49ers in a low-scoring affair.
I think you're drunk, but we'll move on.
Yeah. So you're tipping the Niners?
Yes.
Okay.
Raiders versus Broncos. And does Russell Wilson bounce back?
Russell Wilson bounces back. Sean Payton probably wouldn't allow him not to. Ugh. Where is it being played?
It is being played in Denver.
I'll go them then. I'll go Denver.
Okay, the next game, let's go Cowboys versus Giants. This will be a good game at MetLife.
I think the Cowboys, but I think this is going to be the last year we see Dak Prescott playing for the Cowboys. I know he's got that huge extension. It hasn't worked yet.
Yeah, I maybe agree with you. Monday Night Football, which is on Tuesday here in Australia, which I think is the game of the round. Yep. Bills versus Jets. Now, we've all seen the big off-season edition for the Jets. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers, he's been all over Hard Knocks. It's been a great watch. 1 Jets Drive, 2 on YouTube. What have you made of firstly, Aaron Rodgers, and then give me your winner?
I love Aaron Rodgers because he's different. If you've ever watched the interview with Aaron Rodgers, I guarantee you his beliefs won't align with yours. The way he goes about life will ever be nothing like yours, but he's so interesting. I love him. He's been one of the best quarterbacks of all time. First game, I think the Jets get a reality check, though. I think this Bills team on paper is still better than New York, but as you said, it's the game of the round. It's a ripper. Yep,
I'm going to go the Jets to come out of the blocks firing at MetLife Stadium. Well, Elliot, thanks so much for coming on today, mate.
Pleasure, mate. Thank you, Chad.
We might even jump on next week. We'll see how this one goes.
We'll see.
I appreciate your time. And thank you for tuning in, guys. If you enjoyed the episode, please make sure you do subscribe here on YouTube and on audio. Make sure you check out players@golfclub.com.au for all your merch. The link is in the description below. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.